The wasps were pouring out of the roofline like smoke. Not a few lazy insects around a trash can. Hundreds of yellowjackets were slipping in and out of a crack under the eave of an old English house right above the back door. Every time the door opened, the air changed. That thin, angry buzz filled the garden. So the neighbor did what most people do. He called a pest control company. The truck came. The man stepped out with the tank, the gloves, the spray wand. $400 later, the patio was wet, the shrubs were dripping, and the visible wasps were dropping onto the stones. It looked like victory. But the nest was not in the shrubs. It was not hanging from a branch. It was buried somewhere inside the eave, behind wood, brick, and insulation, where the spray could not reach the queen. The next morning, something else was missing. The honeybees that had been working the clover were gone. Not reduced, gone. The spray had hit the easy targets in the open, and the bees paid for it. 3 weeks later, the yellowjackets were back thicker than before. Same roofline, same crack, same angry traffic. The only thing that had changed was the bill, and the silence in the clover. So the question is simple. Can a $3 bait station really reach the hidden queen a spray can cannot touch while leaving the honeybees alive? The question is whether the old coffee can method can do what the truck, the tank, and the spray wand could not. Simon Hershberger learned it on a farm outside Millersburg, Ohio. Plain country, bee boxes along the edge of the field, clover in the grass. A kitchen table method passed from his grandfather to his father to him. Not a product with a label shouting from a shelf. Just the kind of household knowledge people used before every problem came with a monthly service plan. Simon keeps honeybees, so he could not solve yellowjackets the lazy way. He could not fog the yard, soak the flowers, and hope the right insects died. He needed the wasps gone without turning the bee pasture into a dead zone. That is the whole promise here. You are going to get the exact bait ratio, the container, where to place it, how long it takes, what not to do around pets and children, and the spring move that keeps the population from exploding later in the year. But first, the old rule, do not chase the wasp. That is where most people lose. They see the insect on the porch rail, at the picnic table, or crawling over a soda can, and they attack that one body. Spray, swat, trap, panic. It feels useful because something dies in front of you. But a yellowjacket at your plate is not the problem. It is a delivery driver. It is out collecting meat and sugar for a colony you usually cannot see. Under a stump, inside a wall, in a bank of dirt, behind siding, somewhere dry, dark, and protected. Kill the driver, and another one leaves the nest. Feed the driver the right way at the right speed, and it walks the answer back through the front door. That is the reframe. The target is not the wasp in the air. The target is the table inside the nest. Before the recipe matters, the viewer has to understand why the spray can is fighting the wrong battle. A spray can gives you a clean little victory. You hear the hiss. You see the foam hit the crack. A dozen yellowjackets tumble onto the porch boards, twitching. The entrance goes quiet. For the next hour, it looks like the problem is handled. But that silence can be a trick. A mature yellowjacket colony is not the handful of insects you can see at the hole. It can be thousands of workers spread through a hidden chamber, with larvae in paper cells and a queen still laying eggs. At any moment, many of the adults are not home. They are out hunting caterpillars, cutting bits of meat, or searching for sugar. So when you spray the visible entrance, you mostly kill the guards and the unlucky workers near the doorway. The rest of the colony may be deeper inside the wall, farther down the ground tunnel, or away from the nest entirely. Those foragers come back later and find a poisoned front door. Some die, some find another gap. Some keep feeding the brood if the inner nest stayed alive. That is why people say, I sprayed it yesterday and now they are back. They are not back. They were never all gone. The can made the problem visible at the easiest point, then attack that point. That works if the nest is exposed and the insecticide reaches the queen. But yellowjackets do not build for your convenience. They build where rain stays out, light stays low, and your arm cannot reach. Then the damage spreads. To feel thorough, people spray the fence line, the garbage cans, the flower beds, the eaves, the clover. Now the target is no longer a yellowjacket colony. It is everything small enough to touch the residue. Honeybees, native bees, tiny wasps that do not bother anyone. Insects that were never part of the fight. And still, the hidden queen may be sitting in the dark, untouched. That is the failure of the spray can. It rewards the eye, not the colony. It makes you treat the doorway like the disease. The old method works because it does not try to find the nest at all. It makes the forager reveal it. A forager does not come home and clock out. She comes back carrying something. A bit of caterpillar, a smear of meat, a drop of sugar in her crop. At the nest entrance, another worker meets her. They touch antennae, then the food changes hands, not like a package, but mouth to mouth. That habit has a scientific name, trophallaxis. But you do not need the word to understand the trap. The colony is built on sharing. One wasp finds food, and the nest becomes fed. Workers feed workers. Workers feed larvae. Larvae give back sugary secretions. The queen is not flying around your yard hunting for lunch. She is being supplied by the system around her. That is the weakness. If a yellow jacket grabs bait and dies on the plate in 30 seconds, the nest loses one forager. That looks dramatic, but it is a small loss. The colony can spare one hunter. If that same forager lives long enough to fly home, walk into the dark, and pass the food through the nest, now the bait is no longer outside your house. It is inside the colony. This is why the old bait idea feels almost too simple. You are not trying to hit the nest with a stream from a can. You are using the nest's own delivery route. The very behavior that keeps the brood alive becomes the road the poison travels on. And that changes the target. The target is not the wasp buzzing over your sandwich. It is not the line of insects at the garbage lid. It is the hidden kitchen of the colony, where food is collected, divided, and handed down to the mouths that never leave the nest. That is how a little bait station can reach farther than your arm, your ladder, or your flashlight. Not by being stronger, by being carried. And this is the part most people get backward. The bait is not supposed to be a lightning strike. It is supposed to be a message delivered through the colony before anyone understands what it says. But that slow timing depends on one ingredient being weak enough not to kill too soon. The ingredient was not exotic. It sat in sheds, laundry rooms, and under kitchen sinks in a dented coffee can with a plastic lid. White powder, cheap label, boric acid. For a long time that was the hardware store answer for ants, roaches, silverfish, and sometimes wasps. Not because it was magical, because it was quiet. Boric acid does not work like a spray that drops insects on contact. In the right bait, it works slowly. It interferes with the insect after feeding, and that delay is the whole point. The wasp has to stay alive long enough to leave the dish, cross the yard, find the entrance, and disappear into the nest. That is where people ruin it. They think more powder means more power. It does not. Too much boric acid turns the bait into a wall. The wasp tastes it and rejects it, or she eats enough to get weak before she ever makes it home. Then you have killed the messenger in the driveway. The nest remains open for business, too little, and the colony just gets a meal. So the old-timers cared about dilution, not because they were chemists in white coats, but because they had watched what happened. A bait had to be attractive enough to take, mild enough to carry, and active enough to matter once it was shared. That is the difference between a trick and a system. A spray can rewards the moment. Foam. Panic. A pile of bodies under the porch light. A slow bait rewards patience. You may not see drama in the first hour. You may only see fewer yellow jackets at the trash can tomorrow, and fewer still the day after that. That coffee can on the shelf stands for something we have almost forgotten. Practical knowledge. Plain materials. A problem solved at the root, not managed every weekend with another can from the store. But the powder is only half the design. The next problem is making a bait that wasps want badly, and honeybees do not. Honeybees and yellow jackets do not shop from the same menu. A honeybee leaves the hive looking for flowers, clover, dandelion, blackberry bloom. She is tuned for nectar, pollen, and clean floral sugars. That is why you see her working a blossom with her head down, dusted and yellow, ignoring the soda can beside the porch. A late summer yellow jacket is different. By then the colony is crowded. The larvae need protein. The workers are hunting, scavenging, and stealing calories wherever they can find them. Fallen apples under a tree, a sticky juice box in the trash, hamburger grease on a paper plate. The smell is not a warning to her. It is a dinner bell. That is the opening. Apple juice smells like fermenting fruit. To a yellow jacket that says ripe sugar. But a spoonful of apple cider vinegar changes the signal. It adds that sharp, sour edge honeybees tend to avoid, without ruining the bait for wasps. So the bait is not honeybee safe because bees are magically protected from it. It is safer because it is built around wasp behavior and away from bee behavior. Placement matters just as much. You do not hang it beside a hive. You do not set it in a flower bed where bees are already working. You put it where yellow jackets are causing trouble, near the trash cans, along the fence line, by the compost pile, under the fruit tree where the apples are splitting open in the grass. That is the difference between a trap and a mess. A careless sweet bait can catch the wrong insects. A targeted bait uses smell, season, and location together. It pulls the yellow jackets toward the thing they already want, and gives the honeybees every reason to keep flying past. The old household trick was never just the powder, it was the recipe, the timing, and the common sense around it. Now the viewer is ready for the exact mixture, where half a teaspoon matters more than the whole bottle. Here is the whole recipe. Pure boric acid powder, not borax laundry booster, not ant gel, plain boric acid powder, apple juice, apple cider vinegar, a spoonful of jam or jelly, empty soda cans, tuna cans, or any shallow throwaway container, and a few small twigs. That is it. No sprayer, no fogger, no special bait station from a catalog. For each station, use 1 cup of apple juice, stir in half a teaspoon of boric acid, add 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, then add 1 teaspoon of jam or jelly. Mix it until the powder disappears and the jam loosens into the liquid. The jam does 2 jobs. It thickens the bait just enough that the wasps can feed on it instead of simply drowning in it. And it adds a stronger fruit sugar smell, like something overripe at the bottom of a trash can. The vinegar does the opposite job. It sharpens the bait. It gives it that sour, fermented edge. Yellowjackets will still work, while honeybees are much less likely to bother with it. Now the most important part is the boring part. Half a teaspoon, not a heaping spoon, not a tablespoon, not if a little works, more must work faster. More boric acid is not better. The whole trick depends on the bait being weak enough that the wasp does not die on the rim of the can. You want her to drink it, leave, and carry it back to the hidden nest. Back through the grass, back into the wall void, back under the railroad tie, the woodpile, or the old stump you never would have found. That slow carry-home effect is the point. A spray can kills the workers you can see. This bait is meant for the ones you cannot see, including the colony that is producing them. Pour the mixture into a shallow can, not deep. You only need a small pool in the bottom. Then lay 2 or 3 twigs across the opening so the yellowjackets have a landing bridge. They can stand, feed, and fly away. It should look almost too simple. A little juice, a little sour, a little sweet, a measured trace of boric acid. That is the $3 piece of old household knowledge people used before every problem had a monthly service plan attached to it. But a good recipe can still fail if the station is set where the wasps cannot use it, or where children and pets can. Set the cans where yellowjackets already travel, not in the middle of a clean lawn, not beside the porch chair because that is where you notice them. Put them on edges, fence lines, woodsheds, barn corners, compost piles, trash cans, the shady side of a garage, the strip where weeds meet gravel. Wasps do not wander like little helicopters looking at everything equally. They run routes. They follow cover, smell, heat, old food, and traffic. If you put bait on a travel edge, you are not trying to call them from the whole property. You are placing a snack bar on the road they already use. Start with 4 stations for a small yard. Use 6 or 8 if you have outbuildings, wood piles, livestock feed, fruit trees, or a long fence line. Space them out so one station is not doing all the work. Think corners, not center. Think paths, not open space. And keep them where children, dogs, chickens, and curious cats cannot treat them like toys. On top of a shed ledge, behind a wire panel, inside a scrap piece of pipe, under an overturned crate with gaps wide enough for wasps, but not for a hand or muzzle. You do not need anything fancy. You need access for insects and protection from everything else. Now pour only a shallow tablespoon of bait into each can. That is enough. If you fill the can, the first workers may fall in, die, and never deliver anything back. A shallow pool lets them stand on the twig, feed, and leave. The twig is not decoration, it is the ramp. Without it, a smooth can becomes a little swimming pool, and the whole system turns into a trap instead of a delivery route. Then wait. The first day may look like nothing happened. The second day may still look disappointing. That is normal. By day 3 or 4, the traffic usually starts to thin. Fewer wasps at the trash lid. Fewer around the grill. Fewer cutting across the doorway like they own it. Around a week to 10 days, the noisy spot may go quiet. Do not judge it by the first 24 hours. A spray can gives you dead insects on the ground. This method gives you absence. And absence takes time. Check the bait every couple of days. If it dries into syrup, add a little fresh mix. If rain floods it, dump it and reset it. If one station gets heavy activity, place another station along the same travel line, not directly beside it. That is how a $3 can reaches what a spray nozzle cannot see. Not by force, by letting the workers do the carrying. But the widest reach does not happen in August. It happens months earlier, before a nest exists. In March and April, the whole wasp problem fits inside one insect. Not a nest, not a swarm, one queen. She comes out of winter stiff, hungry, and alone. She has no paper comb yet, no guards, no workers flying food back to her. She has to find a nest site, scrape wood fiber, start the first cells, lay the first eggs, and feed the first larvae by herself. That is the weak point. By August, a yellow jacket nest can have thousands of workers. You can kill 100 at the picnic table and still feel like nothing changed because the factory is already running underground or inside a wall. But in early spring, the factory is still walking around on 6 legs. If that queen never gets established, there is no August nest from her line, no workers at the trash can, no patrol around the grill, no sudden cloud boiling out of a mower path. That is why spring baiting feels almost unfair. The queen is looking for protein. She needs meat for the first batch of larvae. A tiny bait station on a fence post, shed ledge, or woodpile edge can intercept her before she ever chooses a permanent address, and this is where the honeybee part matters. Honeybees are usually working blossoms in spring, clover, dandelion, fruit bloom. They are chasing nectar and pollen, not bits of fish, chicken, or canned meat tucked inside a shaded bait cup. So the bait is not trying to poison every flying insect in the yard. It is aimed at a very specific appetite, at a very specific moment, in a very narrow window of the season. That is the old household trick people forget. Do not wait until the enemy has a city. Meet the founder while she is still carrying the whole future on her back. A $3 station does not reach half a mile because it blasts half a mile. It reaches that far by preventing nearby nests from being born. That power makes the next chapter important, because slow and simple does not mean careless. So before anyone mixes a thing, here is the honest part. Boric acid is not magic dust. It is a household chemical. Treat it like one. Keep the container up high. Label anything you mix. Do the work away from the kitchen counter, away from pet bowls, away from the place where someone is cutting watermelon 10 minutes later. When the bait station is finished, it does not belong on the porch step where a toddler can grab it, or beside the dog run where a bored Labrador can chew it apart. Put it high, put it shaded, put it where wasps can find it and everybody else cannot. That means a tree limb, a fence post, the backside of a shed, a hook under an eave where hands, paws, goats, chickens, and curious kids are not going to investigate it, and there is another line you do not cross. If the nest is active right over the front door, beside a family walkway, inside the playhouse, or in the railing your allergic uncle has to touch to get up the stairs, slow bait is not the first tool. That is not patience, that is risk. A bait station works by letting foragers carry food back. It takes time, sometimes days, sometimes longer. That is fine for a hidden nest somewhere in the brush. It is not fine when workers are bouncing off the porch light and your child has to walk underneath them tomorrow morning. Urgent nests need urgent thinking. That may mean treating at dusk, when most workers are home and flight is slower. It may mean soapy water for a reachable ground or hanging nest. It may mean a properly labeled commercial wasp spray used exactly as directed from a safe distance with the wind in mind. Not while bees are working nearby, not while porch lights are pulling insects toward your face, not from the top of a shaky ladder, leaning over wiring, gutters, or a roof edge because pride told you to save $20. The point of this method is not bravery, it is control. Control means choosing the right tool for the right nest, keeping poison away from the wrong mouths, and knowing when a problem is too close to people to solve slowly. Once the practical cautions are clear, the story can widen to why this knowledge nearly disappeared. That is where the coffee can stops being a hack and becomes a clue. A spray can treats the wasp you can see. The bait station is aimed at the wasp you cannot see, the one disappearing over the fence line, the one slipping under barn siding, the one flying back to a paper city hidden in a stump, a wall void, or the brush pile nobody wants to dig through. That matters because a wasp colony is not just the handful of workers circling your picnic table. It is a supply chain. Foragers leave, food comes back, larvae get fed, the queen keeps laying, the nest keeps producing more mouths, more wings, more pressure around your house. Knock down the workers at the trash can, and the machine replaces them. Interrupt what they carry home, and the machine starts to fail from the inside. That is the whole meaning of the coffee can. Not fancy, not patented, not sold with a subscription. Just a sheltered little station built from cheap parts, using insect behavior against the nest instead of chasing every insect across the yard. And that is why old household knowledge feels strange now. A lot of people were taught how to buy the answer, not how the problem works. Call the service. Grab the aerosol. Repeat in 2 weeks. The bill comes back because the pattern comes back. Plain communities held on to methods like this because their world rewards repair, storage, timing, and memory. A solution that costs a few dollars and works quietly in the background fits that economy. So the final answer is not just the recipe, it is knowing when to set it, why it works, and what kind of household habit it restores. So yes, a $3 bait station can reach what a spray can never touches, not by magic, by letting the wasps do the delivery. Half a teaspoon of boric acid in 1 cup of apple juice, a splash of vinegar, a spoon of jam, poured shallow into cans with twigs so the insects can land and climb out. Set around the perimeter, not in the middle of the picnic table. Then leave it alone for a week. The vinegar and fruit pull at yellowjackets and wasps, used carefully, away from blooming clover and busy hives. It is not built around what honeybees are looking for. That is the answer to the opening question. The bait rides the food-sharing route back into hidden nests, toward larvae, workers, and the queen a spray stream may never find. And the best timing is early. In spring, one queen stopped can mean one whole summer colony that never gets built. Your one job this week is simple. Walk the yard. Look at the eaves, woodpile, trash cans, fence lines, barn corners, and brush piles. Find where they are already working. Then tell me in the comments where wasps hit you hardest. The porch, the shed, the garbage cans, and if you try this for a full season, come back and leave the results. Thanks for watching. This is old household knowledge doing what it always did best. Solving the root, not renting the symptom.